Make a motion that we in the agenda.
Do that first.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have time.
I think it's going around.
All right. Is everybody ready to get started?
The pen goes with the paper.
Okay.
Pass it down.
A and B.
All right. Well, the first meeting of 2019. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
And we are going to start off the meeting today by making an amendment to the agenda for tonight to go ahead and have our discussion in regards to starting up our comprehensive master plan. I'll make that
Motion?
motion.
Yes. And I'll second it.
You're approved?
Everybody's got it.
Everybody's good?
Yes.
Raise their
Yep.
hands.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Okay. Go ahead and get started then.
Good, well, great. Well, thank you all again. That's, to see similar faces when we were here just a couple months ago. So we're excited to get this journey, right? You know, this next step in 2019, to really look at the comprehensive master plan update for the city of Belmont. So again, my name is Andrew Pack. With me is Carl Maney and then Katie Thayer. So we're the primary folks that you're going to be seeing at most of all your meetings. And we'll be producing your executive report for you. And we'll go through some of those details this evening. Zip, before we get started, how long do we have tonight so we can kind of gauge? Because we can go fast and we got some things that we really need input on. I just wanted,
How long do you need?
will you tell us? I mean, we can gauge it.
I mean, we had set till 7:30.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We don't know what else you have on the
to
agenda.
7:30 it'd be fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll-
Great.
we'll
Yeah, 'cause
just try to.
Because this is important.
Because
Okay.
we want to hear more from you than just give you this dog and pony show of our process.
So I think what we want to do is, and I've lost the tone again.
You know, when things used to be paper, huh?
We do have this on the paper.
We do have it on paper.
It lost the connection again.
Is that what it did?
Yeah, lost the internet. I can mess with it.
Well, yeah, I guess one of the things that we want to do is just,
Do we want to just give hard copy?
oh, we can.
Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah,
we're
we'll
gonna
do
have,
that.
if we're gonna keep
This good?
having issues with,
But if we could just go around and just introduce yourselves and then give us
That's all right.
just a little bit,
Thank you.
a background of what you guys would like to see out of this plan and what your expectation is, you know, before we even get started talking about the plan. We'd like to hear a little bit from you guys for, you know, maybe where you work, why you have interest, you know, with this advisory committee, and then what you're looking for, you know, in this plan. So we'll just start with you. Just introduce your name and then just what you're looking for in this plan, expectations.
Okay, my name is Leanna London, and I think for me, I've to have some history with the city, worked for Parks and Recreation for my teenage years into high school, college, and then came back and worked full-time. We've been talking about, one of my bigger goals would be obviously a facility, a gymnasium that would include multi-purpose rooms. And for me, I've kind of seen it on the capital list for now probably about 20 years, just myself. And I feel like it's just a goal that the city of Belmont needs to meet. Because I feel like when we go around to other municipalities that have these facilities already, and Belmont is behind in that part, it's just, it's not a good feeling, because I know that we need to be there. Like, we need to be able to provide that kind of facility for the citizens of Belmont. So that's probably the biggest thing I would say.
Okay, good, that's good, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Good one, that's great.
Yeah. So hi, my name is Jamie Emerson. I work for Wells Fargo. I think you'd ask us to say where we worked, maybe. So
Yeah, just so we understand, so you're financial.
Background about you?
well, I'm in the law department, so we don't deal with the money at all. This is my second term with the board, so I've been here for a bit, and I've lived in Belmont since '92. So this is very much home for me and my family. And my interests are, number one on the list is also the gymnasium. We've been talking about it for a very long time. I think it's something that the city needs. I hear that in feedback and folks that I talk to that are citizens. It's something that's on everybody's mind. So I'm very interested in seeing that come to be at some point. And then the other piece, which I think the gymnasium will help service, is just things outside of athletics, which is super important. Athletics is important. It's a huge part of our community. I don't want to take away from that. But there's other things that the gymnasium would service besides basketball courts and that kind of thing. And I think that's also very important because we have an amazing youth program, which we need to continue. But then there's also other areas that need to be serviced, like our seniors and others as well, that would just encompass more than just one thing.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, hi, I'm Claudina Gianni Toole. I have been here since 1995 and have been affiliated with the Belmont Abbey College for that time. So, of course, the sports is important. I do agree with everything that has been said. And to include that, I think Parks and Rec is a quality of life issue which the municipalities should give as much attention to as we do to with the police or the fire, roads and streets and schools. So the gymnasium is important. I think athletics is really important, but I also think the non-kind of athletic things are important also.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Hi, I'm Emily Wilson. I'm Director of Community Relations for Atrium Health. And again, I think we're all pretty much on the same wavelength. I would like to see a facility that is inclusive of both all different income levels, age ranges, and ability levels. I think that's really important to me from kind of a healthcare perspective and just a quality of life perspective, that we need to be creating facilities that are open and able to be used by everyone in our community. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in addition to what everyone else has said as well.
Good.
My name is Mark Seelinger. I'm a data analyst for Selective Insurance over in Charlotte, and I lived in Belmont for about 2 years. Moved over from Charlotte, lived over there for a few years before coming over here. And I would say my priorities are pretty much in line with the rest of the board. Top concerns probably just having, I guess a gym kind of implies some sort of like athletic component, but not necessarily a gym as much as like a multi-purpose facility that would be, kind of like what everybody else was saying with sports and other recreational type activities. That's about all I have.
And I know she got a Mecklenburg County.
Oh, yeah, I just actually happened to grab this on the way out the door. I was on the Parks Commission over there before.
Oh, were you? Okay.
Yeah, so,
Okay, good.
some familiarity with the way they operate over there, but.
Good. Okay.
I'm Bree Hager. I am fairly new to Belmont. I grew up in Rutherford County, so about an hour and a half west towards the mountains. Hated it when I lived there. I love it now, obviously. But I work at Caramont Health. I do government relations, so I'm the lobbyist for Caramont. I think what everybody else has said is exactly what we're looking for. We're kind of all on the same page in that regard, and I think it's just going to be really great to hear what you guys kind of are able to identify as areas of improvement for us that we haven't identified. So, just hearing y'all's expertise.
And that's what's fun for us to come in as kind of like third-party users. We live in this community. We're not that far from here. Katie's just right down on Lake Raleigh in Mecklenburg County. Carl and I are south of Charlotte, but they've been here. Myself, I'm going on 30 years in the Charlotte area, so doing this type of work for the last 30 years. So, we get that, we really want to be engaged to understand this community, and that's where a board like this is really good to help us with that. Carl's going to walk us through kind of the process that we go through, and there's a lot of fact-finding. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of facts that we're trying to do before we come up with the answer. You know, so, these comments that you guys are giving us right now and tonight are very valuable. We want to continue with those. So we're gonna talk a little bit about kind of communication, because you guys may go away tonight, you're gonna talk with your friends, you may find other things, oh, I should have said this. So we're gonna try to help you guys with that. I mean, not go through a lot of protocol, but it's all about communication, so. And yes, last, I'll just try to make a point there. And then we'll forget.
Save the best, save the best for last, right?
We were the first one here, so you can surprise.
My name's Dan Underwood. I'm an Oracle supply chain specialist for Campbell Soup, Snyder's Lance, Campbell Soup Company
Okay.
now. So I've been living in Belmont since '93, so 25 years.
Wow.
So I've watched it from come with all the growth. I've followed it. I'm more in tune with the sports. I've coached football for the past 15, 16 years at the youth level. I've coached baseball, basketball through Parks and Rec as well. So I've got that tie with the community as well. So I hear a lot of things from the athletic side, but now I'm 58 years old. Now I'll start hearing more things from the elderly as well. So that, and then I've got that generation in the middle that I'm trying to connect with, and most of that connection's coming through the athletics with the kids. So I hear that as well too. So, but I'm like everybody else. I would love to see a community center / gymnasium, something where kids can meet other than a park or somewhere else where not a park. You know what I'm saying? Somewhere where trouble can happen. A safe place, exactly. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see a location where people can come and gather for certain events,
Right.
Parks and Rec events. If we have a rain out day for, say, a movie in the park or what have you, we can hold it in the gymnasium or something to that effect. We don't have that mobility now. But also, watching everything grow, I'd also like to see, hey, what's our plan? If we're going to continue to grow as a community and keep putting rooftops up in this community, what's our growth as far as Parks and Rec? How are we going to grow along with that projected growth within our community as well?
Yes. Good. I know we have some other staff in the room. If you guys could just kind of introduce yourselves as well for us.
I'm Melissa, the new center supervisor over at the Parks and Recreation building. I'm just here collecting minutes and observing.
Good.
Jerry Hatton, city engineer.
I'm Melissa Lockamy, I represent the planning department. And one thing that is exciting that we just finished up our citywide comprehensive land use plan. And now this has been an identified need to update this plan. So in addition to all the great ideas that have been mentioned tonight, it's important to keep in mind the connections, through our greenways and our transportation and any ways we can be innovative there. And so we do make that admission at the city level, but big picture, we want to make sure that we're connected there, not only physically, but also through this process with the community. So I'm here to help.
All right, we look forward to working with you.
I'm Pastor Miles, I'm the events coordinator with Parks and Rec.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, guys. Well, you can see the agenda, it's been up here. What we're going to do is, Carl's going to walk us through a little bit of the project understanding. We just want to kind of check a few things on that, and then we're going to go through and talk briefly about the plan process and really kind of look at that in different phases and how we go through the different steps. Have a little bit of discussion on the previous plan that was done, and then talk about the needs assessment with the public input, there's focus groups and things like that. And then we'll have some questions and we'll end up with just what the next steps are. So in between there, Katie, you have to remind us, we're going to talk a little bit about the meeting times or times that you guys would like to meet, so we could come back with the schedule. And then two, we're going to talk a little bit about how this group can best communicate or we're not all together. So we've got some ideas there as well. So Carl, I'm going to let you walk us through these next couple items here.
All right. So when we were here last, we talked a little bit about this. What is it that we're gonna treat? Well, the overall goal is to update a plan that was done, 16 years ago, 15 or 16 years ago. Why? Well, we're gonna look at, the health and vibrancy of our parks and recreation park. That's really what we're doing. What does that include? Well, that includes parks, that includes programs, that includes the special facilities, which you all discussed right now. A special facility would be a rec center, multidisciplinary or multi-generational community and recreation center. And I know we talked a little bit about that the other day. I said, what you're trying to achieve is really from birth to death and service that at a facility. That's what we're looking at. Hopefully you're not in a mortuary. But the point being, we want to cover all the ages. And then what we want to do is collect and engage citizens to help us decide what the priorities are. Not this group of people only making a decision. We want to hear and listen and find out what it is. What is it they need? Maybe it's not so much a need, sometimes it's a want. And then we're going to make the recommendations, of course, and discuss about facilities, department, structure, people, that type of thing. Once again, we're updating an existing plan for 10 years. So we're looking at 29. Seems far off, but after looking at the plan, and I just noticed that it was 2003, kind of snuck up on everyone. So, we will identify priorities and renovations. Once again, we'll do that with a couple walkthroughs to parks and taking a look and hearing from staff on where they feel they stand today. We'll maybe even get Jerry involved here to help us out in what he's got on what he knows about the sites also. In terms of a strategic business plan, that's what we consider in part of the action plan, is where we start to put dollars to our recommendations. Not only dollars, but potentially where funding might come from. We may not be able to identify exact funding resources at that time, but at least give you a shopping list to use. At least and create a strategy for implementing the plan. After that, we talk about goals and policies, and that's kind of early in the process. We hope many of those are already in place with, I guess you could say, city mission statements and things like that. Input, we've got staff, our master planning committee, I guess that's advisory. And whether or not, I know we talked a little bit about it, is whether there should be a representative from council to listen in on this. And that's something maybe you can talk about and see if there is someone who's interested in parks and recreation and the way that it provides service to the city residents and can communicate as a liaison, you might say, back to council. Pre-recommendations, pre-findings. We don't want to get to the end and say, well, you guys gave us horrible recommendations. That's not what we're doing. So what is the master plan? Basically, we're going to identify essential recreation needs for the community, right? We're going to say, who are they? What are they? Then we're going to give you those recommendations so that you can get orderly development. Okay, I know when we sat down and talked about many of the sites that were brought and built in the last 15 years, it was, oh yeah, and then we're doing, because it was done orderly. I'm not saying it wasn't. What I'm really saying is that maybe then the checklist can go back to the plan and say, we got to fill that void now, right? We got that one done. What do we put in its place? That's how some people use it. A gentleman from Burlington, on one of the plans that we did, would use it as his checklist and update every year. And it was just the recommendations page that we had in the executive summary, which is basically this whole report is an executive summary. It's bulleted form to get concise points of what we're trying to achieve in each section. I'm not going to drone you out with a lot of verbiage. We've got a practical and flexible approach for immediate long-range action. What does that mean? That means, like I said, the guy who uses the plan as he goes along and implements, his flexible tool is his pen. And in scratching through and say, that doesn't work anymore, I've heard that. Let's go back to my advisory commission and say, hey, this is what I'm observing. I made this red line in my report. Let's do something. But that's the flexibility of having a plan, is that you can always change it. Because as a recreation commission, you have that ability to make the recommendation to council so approved. And when we talk about why we want this, another reason we want this plan, in going after grant dollars and so forth, they want to make sure you have one that's approved and in place. Okay, and then when you start to try to get grant money for a specific project or for money for acquiring land, they want to know whether you've got a plan for that piece of property or park that you're trying to get money for. And also with that, they want to make sure that you went back to the public, spoke to them about it to make sure that what you're planning is what the public thinks. So there are a bunch of checks that go on through this, but what the master plan does is at least give you a roadmap on how to get there. Okay? So why is it needed? It's basically so we can use our resources as wise as we can. What does it do? It makes sure we have open space and recreation. I think that's why we're all here, is to talk about recreation and provision of service. What does that do? Well, we hope it attracts people who want to live here. Right now, I think I hear where I live in Charlotte, there are people who go, have you ever been over to Belmont? You ever gone over there? Yeah. What'd you go over there for? Well, there are a couple nice little restaurants. Well, now what they want to do, or they'll go to the events that are held in Stowe and say, you need to come over and we'll have a picnic and listen to music. So that's why we want them. We're going to attract business and improve quality of life. We heard one person say that already today. What does that do? It helps you, I guess, be sustainable, be stable when times maybe get tough, and maybe even in providing recreation, you help soften the blow that maybe some people experience what we did in 2009. So we're going to go through this process, and I've got a scope of services to share with everyone. But no matter what the planning process, and I think we talked about this at our interview, there are really 5 steps. And they're always going to either ask a question or you're going to answer a question that's going to be out there. The first thing is we're going to look at demographics that our fund planning group has. And we're going to say, okay, population is one thing, and the structure of our population is other. And that's who are we? Who are we as a communication? Demographics, population. That's kind of starting. Okay, the next thing is, what do we have? What existing parks, what existing assets, public and private? Because there are privately owned, publicly open, right, recreation. They may not compete and they may compete. We're going to find out. But we need to know what they are. We need to listen. So that's what we have. And then the most important, as always, is what do we need? We're going to go into a little bit, well, much thorough piece of how we're going to go out there to find out what we need. And then the easy part is once we know what we need, is to take those and package them as, what are you going to do? Pretty simple. And then after that is, now that we know what we're going to do, and we go back and cross-check it with the community, we're going to say, how are you going to do it? That's the action point. So I'm going to let those go around, and they follow this process that we have in here. The whole thing about our 5 steps is that you heard Andrew talk about communication, and we want to talk just a hair about that. What we think we're going to do is we have an FTP site that we can post information in and allow you in, and it's only for this project. It's not as, I guess, I'll say it's secure, but it's just not as, I guess, fancy as though, I'll get notices every moment that someone posts things. I think we're still gonna have to communicate by email and then say, hey, we posted information for you guys to review or share or whatever. And then we can use that mechanism, the FTP site, so that we can communicate there when files are too big. That's usually what we're using now. So let's go to the scope items, all right? We're going to revise the demographic review. We call those typically pertinent factors, current and projected. We're going to update your existing facilities inventory and the conditions. And then we're going to revise the community needs assessment. We're going to do that by looking at, there were standards that were established back in 2003. We can still revise those, but we can use those as I won't say a benchmark, but a starting point to see where you are today. And if we need to adjust those standards, we can. They're your standards. They're probably tied to standards that were developed by NRPA back in the 80s, 90s, and I'll give it 90s. Early 2000s is when they really didn't influence that much, other than in actual facility needs, like tennis courts, number of courts per 1,000, those type of things. But even those need to be kind of checked by, your community may not want tennis as 0. It's one way to look at it. So that's what we're going to do, is revise the standards. And then what we're going to do is, and this is where I think you're going to need help from this group and from staff, because I think planning probably has a good idea of groups, focus groups, shareholders, stakeholders, however you want to call them, that would have significant input to the plan. And we've already started working on questionnaires for focus groups, or for them to handle, and then do interviews with them. In the scope, one of the things that's tough is we're trying to do that in one day. So when you think about, there are 3 of us to run, we can say 3 meetings, maybe 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, right? That's 12 meetings. Right? That's about the max we can do without going to another time, or maybe picking up an interview that might be with Jerry, because Jerry was out and I needed to play. But that's where Zip's going to need your help on establishing who those focus groups are. And then we're going to eventually have to create a date when we're going to do that.
A lot of times, too, Carl, on that is, we would get the groups, we'll have private groups, we'll have business owners, there's obviously recreation, whether it's a private, like the Y, Belmont, whatever that list is, we'll try to group those. We'll kind of get that funnel, we'll group them so we can put them in the right category, so they're kind of amongst the same type of user groups or focus groups. So that's how we do that.
In the text of the scope of work, I think we identify some bullets that say these are the typical areas we look at for some focus groups. Those are in general terms, and I sent Zip some information last Friday, that it was, that went more detail into who that might be, right? And we can post that and share that way when we finally get what our final list is. And the whole thing that's most difficult, we don't want to belittle that whatsoever, because I think that's the most difficult thing, is getting people to show up and do it on a day. Not everyone has the ability to show up that day, right? So what do we do? What do we
But even
fall
with
back
that,
to?
even if there was like association,
Right.
home association, you could send the representative, because a lot of times what we'll do is like a group may represent that group,
Right.
and they're representing 400 people. Because years ago, we had maybe 15 people showed up, and we got burned by the council. I'm talking 20-plus years ago, 25 years ago. So we got smart, because a lot of those folks were showing up and not from themselves, but for the group that they're representing. And we're like, we've started finding out, well, you represent 200 people. So we started changing those. So for the number cruncher that said, oh, you didn't get the response, well, yes, we did. This group represented this amount of folks. So it's a more powerful message when you're presenting it to
Exhibit
a
A.
commission or a council.
So this is one of the questionnaires we worked with, and right at the top, one of the things it says is, it says your group or association, if non-applicable, just put an A in there. But the number of people you represent. And the reason we asked that was just for that purpose. We had 3 people on a committee that were representing 6, if not 7 different groups in a way, because that's how active they were in the community. They had athletics involvement, arts involvement, etc. Their homeowners association. And they put down, and I can't remember his name in particular, but there was a woman who, after we were done, we said, who represents the most, and why aren't you on council? But, when it came down to is, I'm trying to think, Burlington was about 40-some thousand people at the time, and we figured that in our focus groups, we probably touched something like 6,000. Which, that doesn't sound like a lot, but you were speaking for what we felt were 6,000, maybe even 6,000 households that get a loan, which would be closer to 12,000, maybe even 13. So it does make a difference. And that's what I think we're talking in the focus group. The reason we're doing that isn't just to hear athletic association people come in and say, give me more fields. That's the easy one.
We just say, great, we mark it up. You say, tell us something else that you.
Okay, now that we know fields are needed, we know you're not there. Great, that saved us 45 minutes left. That's right.
It's amazing.
Politicking
that's happening at this level.
So that's.
Carl, so on that note, we are going, so we have planning staff and recreation staff will build from the list that we have, and that's a good example of a file we can share that people can add specific names, specific contacts to. So.
And what I'll do, as soon as we have that up, or I may just email it to everyone because it's a small file, is what we had in terms of the suggested groups and how you might put them together and let you go at it. Okay?
Can I ask you a question too? I see you have survey data in there as well. So say I'm participating in a focus group as a representative of my HOA, do I then have a survey I can take back to my other fellow homeowners in my neighborhood to say, I participate in this focus group, we'd love to get your input as well?
Yes, we haven't talked exactly about the logistics of the survey materials right now. And I know this person here is going to help me with that, correct? With the survey? Survey monkey?
Sure.
Yeah, you're an expert? Call. Expert? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, experts? We'll already started working on questions. If I get myself organized here. Survey questions. So we've started working on some things. We'll share them with everybody to put your 2 bits on. And then we'll hopefully post those. And then we'll decide hard copy wise where they go to. So we'll take hard copy and we'll take digital.
Okay.
What's nice about the digital, of course, is when they spit it out, we can make a nice little spreadsheet, kind of do statistical, I won't call it analysis, but just to say, where did they fall? How many people said this, how many people said that? And we have a document that proves it. So I don't know statistically whether it would be fitting that way because it's an informal survey. But we can quote it. Because we asked the question and we got responses. That's why we're planning on doing the survey. Okay. And once again, we'll share these with you. They're probably, I'll give them 90%. Because I was working on them today. And I just don't want to give you all my errors.
Well, and also what we'll do is before that goes out, all those steps before we get the survey out, we've learned this community a little bit more. And so we'll be working towards maybe some specific questions. Because we've done so many surveys that we know which questions to ask, but there's also that 5% of questions that we ask that are really at the heart of this community. So I mean, we heard, like, for instance, like with the community center, there may be some questions in there more on the community center, because you got, who's going to use it? We heard multi-generation. What type of programs would you like to see? So if they see that there's a new facility like that, they're going to be able to answer some more other answers if we're already given, okay, we know that we need a center. So what are some of the other questions that we have to follow behind that? So those are some of the things that we'll be adding to that to even more personalize that and more of what we've already done.
And to give you an idea, where they're asking me, there are lots of improvements to be made at existing facilities or sites. Now, when I wrote this, in fact, I had to think, because I know that you have property that was being constructed right now for the new City Hall complex, I guess it is. And there's been a lot of claims to property around there right now for all kinds of good things going on, like a dog park, a skate park, trail connection through Abbey's and Abbey Place along the road, or all kinds of things that are got some energy or synergy going on in that little area of town. So when I wrote that, I had it in mind, and it may be worded different, but what we're asking is, we're going to give them a shopping list. And in that, we're asking them what is very important, somewhat important, and not important. We have a list of items. Not only with that, but with some other items we talk about. I'll give you a quick question. I know we haven't vetted our questions together yet, because we would do that before we send them out, but one, it would be dealing with funding. Let's see what I can put in. Compared with other priorities for Belmont, I think I heard this, how important do you think it is for the city to fund improvements to parks and recreation facilities over the next 10 years? Now, often there's a follow-up question to that is, as other services, just as you said, fire, police, protection, etc. Where do you think it falls? And that's really what you're trying to find out, is how critical people think or warrant recreation. And if you have somebody saying that, then at least you got some background and some firepower. So that's where we stand right now. So we're working on those. As soon as we internally go through those questions and filter them, we'll distribute them, and then hopefully during the times that we go out to do our focus group meetings and our public meetings eventually, that will still be going on. And then around March, after it's floated around
You got the next slide.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did I?
You get 7 o'clock, so just
Ah.
on track.
Okay.
Back up, one more. Back
All
up.
right, I'm too nervous? There we go.
Question here, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions in there about how it should be funded?
Yes.
Because we had a park bond once,
Well,
that
that-
didn't go anywhere.
Well, yeah, but like,
Questions like, will you support it?
tax increase or whatever, yeah.
I would say bond.
I think right now, yes, there will be funding questions, and I can't
We were just
get there real quick, but
Today.
today I was like, where did my questions go for funding?
Because I think that's important.
Oh, I agree.
There's a few
For
that.
certain demographics and.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of. renters
What's your preference for
in
funding
town.
park improvements for new recreation park facilities versus existing ones? That's one way. Because some people feel completely differently how they fund what they might consider maintenance and improvement in the CIP. as opposed to how new facilities. Because, good idea, new facilities typically probably went the bonding route or a loan route.
We never used it.
Yeah, I do know the history.
But I know parks, we got a grant for Lofton Park. And then the USDA offers all sorts of money.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're going into detail. Part F through North Carolina is probably what we had. And then the other one, Land Water Conservation Fund, I don't think got funded. The national fund. So, we'll see. There are other resources for grants.
When it gets beyond what your needs is.
Sure,
goes
sure.
up to the council that.
No, absolutely, how do we fund it?
Questions
Sure.
people ask.
So that's where we stand right now. We're working, we'll get our act together on our side, post it and get everyone out and give you maybe a timeline on getting back to us about changing or adding things. One thing that I will say is we've worked with one client, had a shopping list of questions that just went crazy. And if I'm not mistaken, they ended up with a 12-page survey. I won't name it.
We've done some, yeah.
Yeah, they were very detailed. Maybe that'll help you and they're in this area. Not so much Gaston or whatever. But yeah, they were, it was almost a burden to do the survey. We don't want that. We want it, I think right now I've got 25 questions. And I feel that's a lot. Because the last two that we did for just small communities, again, I think we had 15 questions. So we're, like I said, we're going to work on that. So let's talk about the schedule. We're at the startup meeting. That's where we are. We're doing some survey development and analysis of existing facilities in that. You're going to provide me a bunch of information so that when I come back, we can go to parks, run around and go, yep. We agree with you. Or did you know this? And that'll be part of our analysis there. The next February, March becomes the real important part. Sometime in late February, most undoubtedly, early March, we'll do our first public meeting. Hopefully, it'll be the day after we've done our focus group meetings or the day up. Because we need to do that. And at that point, what we're doing is we're trying to give the community, what is it that Park and Rec is up to with their master plan? And I can't recall whether we did an exercise at the first meeting last time we did this, but often we will do an exercise with them so they can be planners. And really what we're asking them to do is tell us what to do. Fair enough? Focus group meetings and survey, as soon as we can get those schedules, hopefully we're done in March. That's where we start to work on draft recommendations. Because we should have some consensus building from either this group, our focus group, and we'll tap into the survey at that point. Say, this is what we're hearing. We probably will let the survey go through getting the final recommendations. We've done. You can chime in anytime.
Yeah, no, I think we can. I think sometimes it all depends on, especially if we see, like any survey, you're getting.
Spike.
Yeah, you can see where the spikes are. We know that we may get some that's just going to basically tell us what we already know. We should not get anything that's going to get us off track, but we do like to collect that before we do any final, in case there is something that pops up. But that really gives a way for folks to make sure that their voice is heard. You know, there may be a late, well, we didn't know there was a survey. And then, sure, let's give them the survey. We may, allow them to get back what we have to.
That's where we're going to rely on, I don't know, whether it goes back through the newspaper or that type of thing, and, you know, putting the link in the newspaper sometimes.
Yeah.
Now, people read the newspaper online, so, if they do read the news. The other one is whether you, on your website, and links there. All that nice fun stuff. And I think that's the way we'll get response. And what will happen is when we have a public meeting, I think the response will go up. And then afterwards, it'll go away for a while. And then we'll do another public meeting and it'll go back up. And we'll get more responses. And that's usually about when we look to say, this is a good snapshot in time to see whether what we've heard so far from focus groups and the steering committee fit the survey, and vice versa. We hope it does, because if they are going in opposite directions, we got to regroup. Okay? Because that makes everybody's job difficult. There's no consensus. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Draft recommendations will be that in bulleted form again, and then with that, it may be some generation of maps showing service, what we feel are service areas for facilities, either new or existing, how things are working. We'll do that on a map sometimes because people love to point to maps, and I live right there, and I know that park. It gives everyone a sense of ease. I know I do it when I go to public meetings. At that meeting, we'll present those draft recommendations and ask for feedback. And when we get that feedback, we also are going to ask those questions about funding again, because we want to hear it again. And then we'll come back, do a coordination meeting here, us, and get ready. That should be about the time you guys are working on budgets, right? City. And that's why we had in there info for budget meeting. Hopefully we can give them draft recommendations and where we stand at that moment as they start to develop budgets. I don't know whether that's helpful or hurtful, but it's information. Once we get feedback out of those public meetings and our group, we'll come back with final recommendations and present them to the, I believe we have it as present to the public. Sometimes it doesn't. It goes right to presentation, final presentation. And I can't recall how we have it, but I have here that we'll go back. I don't know why, it must be hitting this and not knowing it.
I don't remember Carl,
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, the other pieces aren't, I mean, we can talk about the old plan, but once we have action plan and final recommendations, that's where we can tell you how you can go about it. That's the numbers piece. And that's usually the last 3 weeks of the plan.
Can I ask just a quick question, if you don't mind, kind of before we go further? I'm curious, like, in your experience with these type of things and a community our size, is it important, like, now to start what I would say is, like, to rev up the community? Like, just with going through basketball right now, I had someone come up to me and we were starting to talk about, you know, well, the city just really needs their own facility. Like, I don't even think they knew that I was like, yeah, you know, we're getting ready to start. And they were like, and I almost wish I'd said, look, hey, yeah, you're right.
Yes.
Like, we're going to begin, like, start looking for these dates and how early, like, if you have a public meeting in February, that's just not long. And it's like, you know, when is the appropriate time to start pushing it and saying, hey, be on the lookout, this is what's starting to happen?
I think the city can do a press release, if you will, about the planning process that's kicked off right now.
Because we're in, like, you know, and not to put athletics aside, but we're in a key situation with basketball.
I know.
Where, you know, Zip knows we've been, and it's like, wow, it'd really be great to be at these basketball games. I could be flat, like, hey, this is what's coming.
Yes.
So just curious, you know, just in your experience, like.
Yes, spread the word.
Yeah.
Everybody, you know, right now, you guys hired us, right? So you know it. And we just started, And I guess we'll do what we can to help you guys put word out in your,
Yeah, I'd say that we're all
and I know.
surveys, whatever format that takes, when you take it back to your neighborhood. I mean, because at the end of the day, what if the stats show that a community our size doesn't need X, Y, and Z, but the whole community
Yeah.
has this vision, and this is who Belmont is,
Yeah,
you know?
That's
And,
correct.
Yeah, so our local voice is very important.
absolutely.
So I guess I'm kind of making it just, with our city staff here too, is just to say, even if we had some sort of flyer or a statement or something that was a city-approved statement that was like, yes, it's okay to say these things, and to be able to start like doing it now. See what I'm saying?
I would
Does that
also
make
say too, like, you kind of need a call to action. Like, it's helpful to say like, yes, we're doing this work, but I think it's better if we can say, yes, we're doing this work, and there's a survey available, go take it. So I think if we could move that up in the timeline, I think that would be helpful, because if you could put that in a press release, you can start to talk about it at basketball, we can really start to socialize that. I mean, I feel like when people are complaining, I like to always pivot that to a solution, so I don't know how quickly, how easy it is to, hurry up the survey process, but.
Close.
We're close. We need to do some
I think that's a
internal
great
discussions
suggestion.
before we go, and then I think be close in the next week.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean.
Communication plan,
Yeah.
like the timeline, that's something we can work on immediately as well.
Yeah, okay.
And I agree. I think my thing was just, I don't want to say, oh, by the way, we're having a public meeting in 2 weeks.
Right.
Oh, you better all get ready. And
Yeah.
I just want to make sure everybody, and come ready to roll, I guess, so.
About the old plan, you had recommendations that were made about certain types of parks, a hierarchy of parks, and those parks were regional parks, district parks, community parks, neighborhood parks, special facilities, linear parks, and special, like I said, special facilities. Special facilities being a rec center, skate parks, BMX, you name it. What it said back then, you guys aren't in the regional park business. No real need to be in, since you got state parks here. You've got, right across the river, you got a regional facility in the Whitewater Center. District parks,
We have county parks too.
yeah, well, not done yet there. Those are district parks, that's how they were categorized within the plan, and those district parks and service were to be provided by the county. That's how it was set up. So your share of the parks that you're gonna provide were, how do I do community parks, neighborhood parks, special facilities, and greens. But let's talk about what they said back then. They said, on a community park level, you need one new community park, about 30 acres or more. They wanted to do it in the south part of Belmont. And then, as you get there, improve your existing sites as best you can to provide facilities that are normally in a community park. That's what we got from the plan. In neighborhood parks, it basically said there was a hall site. The hall site is the Rocky Branch site, was developed that, and it said not athletics, is what it said. And then improve the existing sites at Reed and Davis as your neighborhood parks. But the object was to get 2 new sites, one of them being a hall site, I believe was it. When it came to the special facilities, lo and behold, the recreation center, right? At that time, they said 25,000 square feet. You actually reacted to that, right? When we talked about greenways and linear parks, the big plan was for the county to be the driver. And the big driving force was to have the trail, which I guess part of it is still part of the thread trail, to run from where Polson and that is, all the way down to Stowe.
To 7-8.
Okay, wrote Stowe. So what did you accomplish? You acquired land for a community park. I believe we have a park, 30 acres south of town. It just hasn't been developed. We need to review that, see where we stand. You attempted to build a recreation center with bonds. We know the history of that. There were many communities. We got stuck in that with some projects where we waited 6 years before we finally got back to working on our project, because North Carolina wasn't issuing any local ones. And then when they did, I'm not sure everyone was in the financial situation to move forward. We also said you've done improvements at Reading and Davis. And what I would say is probably maybe the highlight that I see driving by is Laughlin and Rocky Ranch. Primarily because it's giving you access to the river, and it's given people who feel they never get anything something when it comes to bike riders and trail users. So that's what we see in the accomplishments, and that's all. Now, we talked about the survey, where we're going with the needs assessment. We're developing the questions. We're going to look at the standards, focus group interviews, right? Public meetings. I know I got out of context. I should have put them ahead of the game, but that's how we're going to handle needs assessment. Those four headings. And our next steps, we're going to meet with staff and go out and take a look at the parks on a day, and then we're working on the survey questions, and then we need to work on scheduling the focus groups. And I'll send out the information. I'll try to do it tomorrow with what we had sent to Zip already about suggested items or stockholder categories, if you will, stakeholder categories. We need to talk about when we're going to meet, right? And right now it's Wednesday. Is this your normal meeting date, third?
The third Wednesday.
The third Wednesday of every month.
Do we want to hijack your meeting?
Yeah, that's my next thing. Do we want to hijack what is your advisory meeting to be the master plan steering committee?
For about 6 months.
Yeah, for 6 months.
Maybe we need an alternate.
And how long would you need each meeting?
What we're doing today is normal, hour to an hour and a half. And if we have to start later, if that helps, I know that hurts, but it helps. If it helps everyone get here, and maybe know how to run the computer, that would help too. But time and dates, I mean, that way we can plug in actual dates and know what we're striking for and see how it affects the overall schedule.
Twice a month.
And we just hadn't done it.
We'll see what works.
Because we didn't know whether we were picking a special
Because
date.
Carl, it's not gonna be every month, or is it?
It's close.
It's gonna be
It's
really
pretty
close,
close.
so
I think
it sounds
that's the
like it
case.
is.
To give them our full attention, I'm thinking we might need to meet twice a month.
No, I think I mean, personally, I would rather just, for the next few months, have a 2-hour meeting once a month and just knock out everything we could do, an hour for master plan and an hour for other business. I mean, it's a long night, but.
It probably works better.
I will be honest with you, when we get to recommendations and funding, you may need more than that. Because
That's what I'm thinking.
it gets a little thoughtful.
Let me ask you, do we have a lot, coming up on our agenda in the terms of Parks and Rec? Could we cut our meeting down to a half hour maybe?
Yeah, we could cut our meeting down. I mean, we could let y'all know ahead of time what's going on, and that way
Right.
we'll know what's coming in.
Yeah.
And we can cut down on the meetings.
All right. Because I wouldn't want to take away from this for that.
And then if we have to have a special meeting and something comes up and you, Leanna, some of y'all want to have a special meeting, we can also do
We
that
can do
also.
that, okay.
Yeah, so that'd be left
All
up
right.
to the
All right.
board. If y'all want to have a special
Now we're
meeting.
going to stick with the third
Okay, yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
And right
And
now.
I think if we come to a point in this where you're like, hey, we really need to see you guys again, then we can make that special time to set aside.
Okay. So we all good?
With that in mind, we'll come back to you and start thinking about what is the date for the public meeting, and whether there's any better location to have it, you might say, than here.
Especially
yeah.
for putting out maps and interaction with the public. You might need it.
So a good example is if we do a a work session, we may have as many as 6 tables. There is that, six tables.
Or the textile college.
We've done that up at Belmont Abbey, but also.
Or the textile college?
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be good.
Or the textile
Or,
college?
I mean, could we do it at the J. Paul Ford Center? I mean, it kind of like drums at home of like, this is what we have right now, and this is what we're looking at in the future.
You know what?
No, that's a good idea.
There's something to be said about it.
I mean, it's a bigger space if there's, the room for it and if there aren't any conflicts.
Would,
What do you?
I will
is it
ask you
staff
this
on
about,
Wednesday nights?
about
Yeah,
doing
we'd have to
it
make a
at
little
the
slight adjustments out of it. If it's on Wednesday nights, we're out by 7. She's out by 7 o'clock, but we could curtail that
Well,
a
we
little
can,
bit.
that meeting can be
Any
Tuesday,
night.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
A date that best suits the community.
Okay.
Maybe an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Gives you plenty of room to bring your
Yeah.
Yeah, well, one of the things I was gonna say about Ford was, one, you hit it for me.
Parking.
Parking. The other was, sometimes because they know the facility already, and they have this vision in their mind, I'm not going there. Right? That happens. I don't But I go, I just want to warn people about
Sometimes we align public meetings with our focus. We've done that before.
that.
We're
Yeah,
really on it.
we've done them all in one day.
If we separate it and we need a smaller space for those focus meetings, then
Right.
there's a possibility of changing locations for those.
The focus group meetings, we can either, hopefully, I don't know enough about the dynamics. If the city downtown merchants meet, where do they meet normally? Where's the chamber? At a chamber?
Here.
They have their own
Here, right
We're here,
here.
right here.
Right here.
So they're used to coming here.
Mm-hmm.
That, I think that's fine for focus.
Yeah.
And if not, I think even your facility, because all we were doing at that point is asking people to sign in, do the questionnaire, and if we already have these aligned, we can send them the questionnaire beforehand, so they can come in with it filled in. But it's only gonna take 10 minutes regardless of the time to fill it out when you're there. So we're flexible in that regard. But I think so far what we've said is we're still pining out there where the public meeting occurs. Where have you had most public meetings? It won't be nice enough to have them outside.
Augusta College has an auditorium, the parking usually free.
And that's the one right around the corner, is that what you meant by the testing center?
Right, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. I had to catch up. I know what you're talking about now. Okay, that makes sense. And are they real flexible with community use? They will-
Yes, I mean, if you have a couple days available, then usually one of those will work.
Okay.
They do have some conflicts, but we find the time for us.
Okay.
So would that be, just a timeline, if we meet again on February the 20th, then when would the projected, would that be right after that meeting? Or how does that work?
Yeah, it's gonna be real close.
Okay.
Maybe, it may be, there are 28 days in February.
So do we need to have 20 meetings and just have
At the asset.
We need to meet earlier. Yeah,
The last time I said that.
Unless that comes up.
do you think that we should move our meeting up in order to properly schedule the public meeting, or what's your?
I don't have a reaction right now.
Okay.
I haven't laid the dates out completely, because for some reason I thought, I was originally thinking you meant, as I said, the second, and she goes, what, it's not the second this week. And I go, I guess I just missed it, so, and I did.
One thing,
But it is.
generally speaking, I know that of us, like, as staff, we're gonna get together, ASAP to get the information out. I think as we work on the communication plans, like with the sort of the timeline will start to evolve, and that's something that we can share on these sites with each other,
Right.
so that we're all in touch without having to meet.
And I gotta put the scoping piece back to it, because I think, going to the first public meeting, what we want to really have out of the way is the survey is about ready to go. It's not.
Well, like you said, that's gonna be the first thing that will get done.
And the focus groups hopefully might even happen that week. Before that. So it's whether it happens, we'll say, the 27th to, would that be the 6th? Some first week of March, and that's why we had the March, kind of extend in the March area for that.
Didn't you say that you could get the survey done next week, so we can start?
I think we can get you
Okay.
questions, yeah.
And we can
all
start
the
getting
questions
rolling it
actually
out.
next week, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about whether we're gonna be finished, it's how much input we're gonna.
And before we move on, while the board is reaching a consensus about things, were you here when they were talking about the concept of having a city council member liaison? I don't know if you had checked out.
Yeah, I was here, yeah.
That was just
Yeah.
something that.
We've had it both ways.
It's a great
It helps, again, I don't know, I think, you know, to be at every meeting, probably not, but I think to show up at maybe like one of the public meetings, you know?
I'm
I think
sure
it's a
we-
great
I'm sure-
idea.
I'm sure we
It's
get
always
it done,
nice
man.
to
I think
say,
it's a great
appreciate
idea.
your effort, this is important to the city. And then, you know, again, I don't know who that person may be or persons, but then also maybe at one of the meetings, there's a draft recommendations. Because they're starting to see just a draft and it's not written in stone yet, and there's still some political, you know, involvement. that needs to be if there's something sensitive that we've touched on.
Or even alternately, like, between the two extremes, maybe like regularly scheduled meetings here that depending on where they are in the process, but, you know, we're able to, we really want a broad group of input, and if we don't have it be technically in the steering committee, we're able to fast track sort of like the focus groups by the lead work that you do, and then having the set schedule, but for council, and at the end of the day, when we want an adopted plan, you know, it's good, I think, to have that in whatever format you feel, but, you know, regularly along the way.
Well, let me ask you, Zip, can you touch base with Adrian?
Yes, I will, yeah.
And see if he could ask if there would be a council member that would willing to sit? Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's a great idea.
We've always, it seems like it's always been, and it's helpful because then it doesn't hit council
No
as a
surprises.
surprise,
Yeah.
anything coming
To the
out.
process.
And
Make
normally,
a recommendation.
yeah, well, you know, and normally they're,
She
the
just said.
liaison members are not trying to influence the decision either. That's been our
No,
experience.
she made a recommendation.
They may make comments that might.
So it's going to be a recommendation?
So she
I
needs
found
to, she
it to
needs
be
to
very
make a
productive.
recommendation, and somebody
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be a
Okay.
motion? Okay, all right.
Well, you want to do that after they
They're
finish?
there to help with the county.
No, you
I know, but you want to do it after they finish? Are they
No,
done?
you can do it.
Well, did they finish?
I just stopped here.
Oh, well, then,
Yeah. And we need to back up a few and let them make that recommendation so we can make it.
Official.
Yeah, official,
Well, they-
yeah.
Official meeting,
I will-
sure.
Yeah.
Carl, I think we're done. I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
we're-
that's,
great.
Yeah.
Okay.
we're gonna open up for any other questions.
Yeah, we're just gonna let you guys
Go
go.
ahead and make that.
I will go ahead and make the recommendation that we ask to have a council member to sit with us on this, the process.
A second.
We have a second.
Would it be through,
everybody's-
No?
before we vote? Would it be before, to amend your proposal, would it be for, sit with us
Working
through the
with
process
us,
or
yes.
through our specific meetings? Like, they don't have to be to every one, to the,
Right.
That'll be their choice, though.
okay. So we're going to offer them to be
Yes.
here through the process?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Is everybody good?
All
Yep.
right.
Okay.
Good.
And we might filter down through our discussions and technically about exactly which meetings are going to be most crucial for them to attend, that way.
Have them come to every single one of them.
They want to come to all of them.
Yeah.
Yes. Either
Um,
Richard Turner.
I think in the scope we had a little bit about, it's great to have them when we go to the public meetings. because it shows that, one, they're informed. And if they want to bring more than one council member, by all means, please. I know in Pineville, every single one of them showed up to make a comment at the public meeting. To set my schedule up.
Was that an election year? It's amazing when it is an election.
And it was fun.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you all very
much. All right, y'all want to go ahead and move forward?
Yeah. Do you want to make a motion to begin the regular meeting? Motion carries.
Make a motion that will continue on the agenda.
On the agenda, great.
Yes.
Okay. First item of business is
Approval of minutes from October. Did anybody get, did y'all get a copy and look over those? Oh, Claudina was sweet enough, she brought this copy if you want to look over them.
Prepared.
Thank you.
Well, I'm usually late, I'm usually not prepared.
Thank you.
So,
It's like, okay, all right.
Thanks, Melissa.
Well, thank you very much.
Because, you know, some computers may reject these things.
You're all right.
Look at the property and just look at some infrastructure, just look at the other overlay.
The young Gwen.
Yeah,
those are good. Okay.
Good? Okay, so we're making a motion to approve the minutes from the October
And second.
17th meeting.
So all approved, say.
All approved, yes.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All of them up.
All right. The next thing is public comment.
Nobody here. Nobody signed up for public
Everyone
comment.
say anything? All right. Donation and improvements to Rocky Branch Park.
What's that?
Hey, can you guys move that out that way?
Sorry, we're trying to continue our meeting.
Appreciate it.
We're not kicking you out, but
Tonight, we're supposed to have a presentation from a group that wanted to make a donation to Rocky Branch Park. Donation of $25,000. And they wanted the city to match 25, so they could work on the trail down at Rocky Branch. Oh, a trail down at Rocky Branch, but they wasn't ready yet. They're gonna come next month with that, to the board with that. And recommendation to go to council, to ask council for the additional funding. And I won't tell you who it is, but
so we're going to defer this until next month.
we're gonna defer this to next month till they come.
Good.
But I'm just giving y'all a update on what's happening with that.
I'll ask questions. Will that be matched by Parks and Rec?
No.
Or by city?
By the
City budget.
City
By the
budget,
city
not
budget.
Parks and Rec?
Right.
Parks and Rec has no money.
We have.
Parks and Rec.
I'm just wondering, because if somebody's approaching, and they're gonna offer some money and the
No,
the
no.
matching funds,
You're right.
okay.
No, I'm just
I think-
teasing you. But we don't have any information.
I was sharing with Lynn, my husband is helping with that project, so whenever they do come, I'll probably just recuse myself. But what happened is someone made a donation to the Tar Heel Trailblazers.
Yep.
They want to make some of the updates, but are looking to city council to help them out.
Okay. That's the group that helps manage the trails now.
Yes.
anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they wanted, the guy had to expedite that real quick to get rid of that money.
Yeah.
Actually, background story, he won the lottery, he
Yeah.
won $10 million in the scratch off. And he ended up getting $6.5 million.
Exciting.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have to match.
He bought a
You just go ahead and
$30
bring it.
scratch off for $10 million.
Make sure he gets the invitation to the focus group.
Is that the same group that maintains the Whitewater Center and?
They're all over.
They do, there's a separate group that does Poston, but they work together, but it's a separate group who does Poston, and the Whitewater Center is managed by their staff.
Okay, because it used to be, there was a
Target
private. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was- Back when I used to.
But they do
ride
a
it.
ton of trails in the area. I mean, they're like a pretty respected trail.
good.
And it's all volunteer based. I think there may be like one or two hired staff, but the rest is volunteer based. So.
Okay, great. Okay, all right.
Right, and the master plan committee?
We just did
That's what we
that,
just
yeah.
did, okay, gotcha. Update on the observation deck at Kevin Lofton Park.
And we completed getting that project, the maintenance done on that project, end up It was $4,000 to get the car out of the water, additional $6,000 to repair the deck. And we're pursuing that, trying to recoup our money back. We've already contacted their insurance company. The individual was from Krause, North Carolina, and he just decided he just wanted to take his life. And we're going to be implementing and putting the ballast up down there. That will be one of our next steps down there.
Put up,
The ballot, yeah, down there, so that, try to prevent that from happening again, but it's kind of a freak. I still don't know how the guy did it. It was only a 9-foot area in there. He got that, it was a Hyundai Corona, Sinatra. Yeah, that he went down there anyway. So.
But he lived, right?
Yeah, he lived, yeah.
He looked like a turtle.
Yeah, he kind of went.
So structurally, the observation deck.
Everything was sound, yeah, we had the company
I
come
saw
in.
that the end's been repaired.
Yeah, they came in and did the repairs and stuff. They inspected it first and then told us what the estimate would be to repair it. And they repaired it and we opened it up, I think, last week. So it was closed probably about 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
That's quick.
So it was a quick turnaround.
I know we had talked about, or there had been a suggestion made about putting up a sign somewhere in the park, or just with the suicide prevention hotline, and perhaps putting up something like that in case folks were at the water having those thoughts. Did anybody, did that go anywhere, or?
No,
thoughts
but I
around that?
mean, you guys will have to make a recommendation and ask for that as a recommendation that you would like to see that happen. I mean, and then we just take it from there.
What do you guys think?
I would like to see that. I think that was Brett's suggestion, so I hate he's not here to kind of spearhead it, but I think that's a great idea. I mean, if it's something that's not too expensive, I think we should pursue that, because just having the number out there is a nice reminder.
Everybody else agree?
Make the recommendation.
I'll make the recommendation.
I'm totally on the fence.
Yeah, I'm on the fence too about it. You know what, I mean, it's a rare occurrence, one. You're going to actually put up all of these other barriers so that that probably won't occur again. And there are a lot of families and kids and everything that actually go down there. Is that what you want in your park? And then if you do, you know, I'm just on the fence about it. I just don't, yeah, as much as I think it's an important thing, you know, I mean, I work, you know, in the emergency room doing that. I just don't know if that's needed there.
I personally feel like if we were going to do something around mental health, there's a lot of other programming and education that we could recommend, and, you know, a lot of free education that's out there that we could do within our community that would probably make a larger impact. I mean, it doesn't, obviously the water isn't very deep, very right there.
No.
So, you know, I mean, I could go either way also. I mean, I feel like it could be helpful to put it there. I mean, I guess it depends on how much money it's going to cost, and, you know, is that it cost benefit.
Well, I don't think money should be an example of it. I mean, if it's important, then whatever it costs, we do. I'm just on the fence like Dan. I can't get over the fence either way.
Yeah, I mean,
We can wait and.
I mean,
to have something posted right there visible is, to me, it's almost depressing.
Well, it's almost an
And
invitation
I want to go to
too.
a park to.
Like, we have problems here.
Right, and then, you know,
But,
if
I
I
mean,
put
I'm-
one up there, I mean, where am I going to put the next one up at?
I think we
Right.
do have problems, though, right? The fact that this even happened, I think, is a pretty clear indication.
Yeah, but.
And depression's everywhere.
Right.
I mean, you can't.
Should we put signs everywhere?
You can't, like you said, you can't put signs
That's
everywhere, and you
right.
can't, you can't do it all. I mean, there's a lot of things that's not only gonna happen at Lofton Park, it's gonna happen at Stowe Park and some of the
Could
other
happen
places.
anywhere.
It just
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy came all the way from Krause, North Carolina to, at our location. I mean, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just don't think I have enough of info right now to actually make a decision.
I don't have enough.
Yeah, so
I
I mean,
mean-
We can noodle on it.
The human side of
Can
me,
we-
that one part of me says, oh yeah, let's put it up. There's another part that says,
no,
no, I don't think it's the right thing to do
there,
there,
right.
at that particular location.
Yeah,
'Cause then
yeah.
we'd have to, there's other places. And then-
We would have to hash out that a little bit more.
Exactly.
Yeah, are you going to put it up in every part? I mean, I also think it could look, I mean, it's just a little bit empty looking, you know, okay, well, the city put up a sign, that's great. What are you really doing to impact and lower suicide rates and, you know, impact mental health? I mean, I personally feel like there's a lot that we could be doing as a city to impact that area, and I don't know that that is really, it just is kind of, it's just a sign, you know, it's just kind of an empty message.
Yeah.
Okay.
Suicides by taking a car and going off of, a cliff or the water, extremely rare. It's kind of mostly kind of opioids, and so I'm just, I don't know, I'm on the fence. Really, like I have that thing, so
Yeah.
if we could table that maybe until we have a little bit more info on it, if we're all comfortable about that. I really think it's important, but I'm just not sure there. Okay. All right. Thank you, Leanna.
All right, and then an update on programs and events.
Right now, we kind of in a slow process right now for programs and events. The only thing we got playing right now is our basketball league. Currently, we have about 200 to 230 kids participating in that. We are down a little bit because of the practice time space. We have been cut on our space a little bit.
Where do you guys practice now?
We practice at either Belmont Middle School at Foursquare Church,
Right.
and they have cut back on our times a little bit. So it's kind of affected our kids being able to sign up. We had to let about 30 to 50 kids go to other towns.
Really?
Yeah, because we didn't have we had to cut it off somewhere.
Central Central wouldn't open up?
No,
No, Central.
There's several other just key parts, with part of that. Not only do we have to stop registration,
Yeah.
and I'm just saying this on my first BAPSIP, I'm not saying it for the department, but the other thing, with Foursquare, obviously, it's not local churches and schools. To me, it's their responsibility to provide a place for the city,
True.
programs.
Right.
But the other thing, and kind of ironically, Foursquare cut back on their hours because they've started their own adult basketball league. Well, it's like,
Yeah.
if we had our own facility, we could be doing
Yeah,
that.
right.
They've got tons of teams now
I know.
that they have incorporated with local churches.
Well, actually, First
And they're having
Presbyterian is
men's,
one.
yeah, our churches have, and so there's like so many pieces of that that's just like,
It's
Well,
wrong.
there's such a need.
Yeah,
it's just not right,
That's right.
that we're not only sending kids to other areas, now we're sending our adult population that wants to play that, we're
So
sending
what-
that.
So my
to another
question is,
group.
what are they doing right that we're doing wrong?
They have a
Does it
facility. They have a location.
Yeah, they have a location.
They have a location that they can mandate when they want it,
Yeah.
and that's
There you
where
go.
we're at the mercy,
We had the mercy of them, so we got to kind of
Yeah,
do what they
just
say.
like, and we're still back to the same thing, like my 9-year-old has got a 7:45 basketball practice.
Oh,
And that's hard, and we're doing the best they can do, and we're having to go to Mount Holly and play and stuff like that. But again, that's why I was kind of talking to them like, hey, can we start getting some information while we have access to this one out of many people that need to be serviced, but this particular one that really got a hold of us this season on many different, levels, so.
Well,
And it's not only just for basketball. Karate. I was thinking about enrolling my boy in karate over here, but it's Thursday at 7 o'clock, so
Yeah,
7 to
I do that.
8:30. That's kind of tough on the school
Yeah.
night.
That's
So it's not just basketball; it's other
Yeah.
stuff too.
Yeah.
And we really can't. We have people coming in asking us to do different classes, and we can't do it now because we don't have the space.
well, we have 36 acres on Gaither Road,
Yeah.
right down from my house, half acre away, half mile away.
Well, that's another story.
Well, I know,
Get the road.
we'll go off the record about that, about that story, so
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about Gate the
turn
Road.
off your little machine over
I
there.
think you're being recorded.
The meeting is over, right?
No, is there any other business then?
No, adjourn the meeting, and then we can talk about Gaither Road for like a minute or so.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion then, or you.
Were you
was that
doing
all
something
the
over there?
events?
The only other thing I got is we're still working on our program. I guess our biggest thing is gonna be is the Garibaldi Festival. We're working on that, and we're working
What is
on-
the date of that?
Oh, man, I forgot the date.
And what about Juneteenth? Is that going to be into the park too again?
Yes, that'd be in the park again. As far as we know, that's gonna be in the park again. Still gonna, I have the July 4th celebration, just like we did last
Right.
year.
And you have the Elements of Empowerment are doing Juneteenth, right?
Right,
Okay.
Elements of Empower, which is a nonprofit group doing the Juneteenth for us.
Right.
But we're still planning a lot of other different things. We are getting a lot of requests to do 5K races, and the way that works, everything comes to us. Yeah,
I want to speak about 5K races.
well,
I had
everything-
participated, again, a timed 5K race, all right? And when Belmont began doing this 10 years ago, we didn't have as many people, we didn't have as many developments. People on Saturday mornings didn't typically do all of their shopping, and stuff like that. Right now, we have so many races, so into the 5K race, which my sorry self ran, I came in third left, but why? Because if you get older, you don't have anybody in and I'd be the lady that was in a wheelchair. But the officer had to stop the Keena Road, the race. Now, it's a timed race to allow with the traffic to actually turn to get into the Catawba Mill, there, because of the fact that if they would not, the traffic would have had no, way to go onto the Keener. So we are getting overly packed with 5K, races. I mean, it's just a lot.
And I will address that. Yeah, we are getting a lot of requests. Well, you don't see the tons of requests that come in that we deny some of those, and we're starting to do that because, unfortunately, Belmont is a popular place. Everybody wants to be a part, and everybody wants to bring their special programs and the fundraisers or whatever. They want to bring them here. That's the reputation that this city has. I mean, I don't know if that's a bad thing or not, but.
We're running on DOT roads. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really not safe. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't mind if it's going through the neighborhoods and stuff like, Lineberger does, and those are the races, and, but, these are going through DOT streets.
Well, I think there's a way to do it. I mean, all 5Ks run on public streets
Oh, I know.
everywhere.
Well, except parks.
I ran in the half marathon that was over Christmas.
And how did you do?
I finished.
Okay.
But my neighbor lives in Eagle Park. Her husband is a Charlotte police officer, and he is in charge of all of the special events for Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police. So he does all of the planning for all of the marathons, half marathons, 5Ks, like any special event. And he was, I think offering some constructive criticism about things that our police department could have done better with some of the traffic flow. And I know that he would be willing to come. I mean, he mentioned it to me, he'd be willing to come and do kind of like a lunch and learn, or, share some of what they've learned from Charlotte-Mecklenburg. So maybe that's an option in the future too, as more 5Ks and road races are looking to come to the area, of really looking at the police department and how they could, work on the traffic flow a little bit better.
How is, and you may know this then, Emily and Zip, so when a 5K comes to Belmont, where do those expenses go? Do they pay money to do the 5K? Like, how does that all work? I'm just not
There's a
familiar with
permit,
it.
There's a permit you have to fill out, and it goes through the process, and we.
And that's a city permit?
It's a city permit, and
Okay.
it goes through all the departments. It comes to our office first, and then we'll filter it out
Okay.
to the public works and see what their cost is, the PD department, and then the various departments, and see what kind of permits they're gonna need. We also send a request out to the state for the DOT to close the road. We have to do that a month in advance.
So is there a fee for that, or they just pay the cost that's?
It is a fee. It is a fee, yeah.
What's the
Okay.
fee?
It's based on where they're profit or nonprofit, and it's got different fee ranges for them. But it's gonna cover I know the policeman is $25 an hour.
Right.
So those different things, and then the public works would say how many cones, how many barriers they need, is the cost for that. How much time they're gonna have for their staff. So all those things are incorporated into that price.
Well,
So
that's
it's
a profit.
the special permits form. It's got all that listed on there, what everything costs us.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's the sponsorship.
Yeah.
Tons of sponsors
Yeah.
behind
Oh,
it.
I know.
And then
I was just
Yeah,
curious. I don't think I've
Yeah.
there wasn't any when I.
Yeah, and a lot comes with
Works.
sponsorships. Like he says, a lot of people sponsor these events.
Oh, I know, yeah, oh, I know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But people love those. People love them. I mean, people love them. I mean,
But so I think there may be some things we can do as a city
Hearing a lot
to
from
really
city.
work on the
Ease
traffic
the
flow.
pain of people who are
to
not out there running.
residents. Yeah, right. I mean, I'm
Trying to get to somewhere.
I don't
I'm
hear
trying
too
to
much
get
about
anywhere
the
the Saturday
5Ks,
before
but the
Christmas, it was
half
painful.
marathon,
No,
boy, I
I think
gotta
that
tell
was
you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
what was that?
But I don't hear much about the 5Ks because we're doing them early enough and we're
And they're
putting it
quick.
out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quick,
Real
and we're putting
quick,
it out
yeah.
there. But But that half marathon,
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too.
I got blasted from people over on South New Hope, people from Cramerton.
Yeah.
I got
blasted
Tough.
by
I
the
mean,
one
it's a tough day to close roads, you know. Yeah, and so
Because
I
it's
think,
such a longer
I
period.
think there's some places on the route that could have been improved as well.
But like I
From
said,
a perspective.
we do and still go through all the various departments, though, and especially the PD department. They got input, and then, like I said, the DOT, we send out the request to the state, they review it, and then send it back to us, telling us where it's safe and what we can do and what we need to improve on before they approve it. So there's those safeguards in place.
Yeah.
So we're just not blindly out, just doing something, so.
Oh, I know.
It
And
would
I'm
be
sure-
interesting, though, to get some follow-up from that,
I
like
mean-
that Santa Hustle.
Yeah.
Like, to say, okay, how did it go, and what can we learn,
Right.
and what, just a follow-up from it.
Because I heard that they
The
want to come
detours
back.
went really good.
I'm sure they
That-
do.
I mean, they had a
have
huge
runners.
turnout here, and they really would like to
Always
come
a
back. And so, I mean, I think
100
if you're
people or
gonna do that
something,
again, like,
that's what I
you've
heard.
got to,
Maybe not do it then.
or, I mean, I think our police need to be better prepared, like, I think, I mean, I've run in the half and the marathon in Charlotte that, like, shuts down the city pretty much. And I mean, it's not easy on drivers, but I think the police department has learned how to work with traffic and get people moving and detours and stuff, and so I think that there's maybe some,
Yeah.
lessons to be learned from.
We didn't have a
Mecklenburg County.
detour that was very good.
I mean, I
kept
would
turning down
probably
to the
say to that,
streets and there were, runners.
Yeah.
Probably need to contact PD and ask get whoever this individual is
Yeah,
that he
I
can
was
come
just
and
gonna
talk.
introduce him to Adrian since we're all neighbors.
Yeah.
Just let Adrian handle it. Like, Adrian, this is your problem.
Yeah. Okay, we handle it.
Yeah.
That's bad. Yeah. But that's all I got on the events and updates.
Any other business, anything? I don't think I have anything. Just so you guys know, if anybody asks you about tennis courts, I'm just waiting on good weather.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Just waiting on good weather. Yeah, they have to have so many days with a temperature above like 50 or something, and so,
Is that for the resurfacing?
And no rain,
Yeah.
right?
yeah, I know, right? So the original date was November the 12th, whatever Veterans Day was, and so, well, we've.
It's literally been raining.
I think so, yeah, and cold. So I just, in case anybody asks, I know they've still got the sign that says like your tax dollars at work, and everybody, I've had numerous people be like, so what's going on? I'm like, just waiting on weather. That's it. So anyway, if anybody asks, but,
Who's doing the resurfacing? If you don't mind me asking. Is it the contract?
Carolina Court Works, sorry, I had to think about that for a second. Yeah, Carolina Court Works, they'll do everything, turnkey, from the breakup of the everything, removal to the net post at the end.
Yeah, it's a good.
They'll do everything.
It's a good deal.
Oh, I forgot to mention one thing. Sorry about that. Down at Lofton Park, for the play unit down there, the natural play unit, we're having trouble out of the walkway. So we got it closed for a couple of days until we get those repaired. But we got the company coming in to look at that. We've had a couple of things that has rotted out.
Is that the rope walkway?
Yeah, we got a problem down there. We had it closed today, and I don't know if they got it reopened.
Well, no injuries or nothing?
No injuries, no. We had somebody to do weekly inspections, and the inspection came back, and we had to close, so we closed for repairs. So if anybody calls, that's what it is down there.
Okay.
All right, well, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
I am
Now you want to talk about Gaither Road?
The city purchased 36 acres from 19 survivors. The woman died, which I knew her really, really well.